I was a freshman in a small college called Five Towns College in Long Island, New York in 2020, when the pandemic was still going on. It is a performing arts college. I majored in music performance with a minor in audio production. Not that many people knew about this college. This has to be the worst college in New York. They accept anybody. The professors and advisors don't care about their jobs. They pass anyone and let them all graduate. And the people who actually study hard and graduate don't ever get jobs for the majors that they studied. And the worst of all, this campus used to be a middle school. I had graduated this past May, and I'm happy as hell to finally get out of that dumpy school. Backtracking to 2020, I started taking classes there in August of 2020. I trusted this college to be a good experience at first, and I have since regret doing that. There were a lot of weird students throughout the place. They all had horrible social skills, and there's a lot of people smoking weed all day. I didn't really like anybody and their antics, but there was this one kid that I disliked the most out of anyone. There was this 23-year-old freshman guy named Jeremy. He was a theater kid. People say he's a creepy dude that you should avoid at all times. A lot of other people told me that he stalks a lot of girls. The first time I ever met him was in the school's cafeteria. He walked up to me as if we were best friends. He started off the conversation by saying, "Hello, my name is Jeremy. What about you?" I was already being cautious because of what other people told me about his behavior. I just remained calm and I told him my name, and I told him that it was nice to meet him. The conversation then went on longer. We just told each other what our majors are and what we plan on doing after we graduate. Then my food came and I placed my food in the bag. He then waved and said bye. I said bye back in a soft voice with a neutral expression on my face. I was really scared at the moment. I turned back one last time just to see him staring at me when I walked outside. He was just standing there, motionless. I already got bad vibes from this dude. I want to make it clear that the next time we see each other, I have no interest in talking to him. About a few days later, I saw him again in the cafeteria. This time, a bunch of people were there. He said hi again. I just said hi back and was ready to order my food and not waste time talking to this weirdo. He then started asking questions about how my day was and how classes were going. I just gave him simple one-word answers like yeah, no, or good. I didn't want to talk to this guy. Then he asked me the most creepy and personal question. He asked me if I was single. Now this question I did not answer back. Thank God a cook who works there asked me what I wanted to order at that time. Then I walked out from the kitchen area into the dining hall. I then heard Jeremy order and then he walked out the kitchen right behind me. He then asked the same uncomfortable question again. I ignored him once again. It took him about 15 seconds for him to ask, "Why are you ignoring me?" Then another guy who was waiting for his food jumped into the conversation and straight up told Jeremy to back off, beat it. Then things escalated quickly. Jeremy asked the other guy, "You want to fight me or something?" He replied back with a disgusted expression, "No, I'm just telling you to back off." After this, me and the other guy got our food at the same time, and we walked out together. As we did this, we heard Jeremy make a loud grunt and he stumped his feet on the ground as he just stood there waiting for his food. I then thanked this guy for having my back when things could have gotten a lot worse. He introduced himself as Connor. We had a nice small talk and then walked back to our dorms. About 2 weeks have gone by and I haven't seen Jeremy since. I was very surprised not to see him considering that the whole college has like 400 students, probably even less. I made a small friend group with kids in my major and we talked about our major a lot. I felt more happy and safe at the moment, but I damn sure celebrated way too early. There was this one night when I was coming back from a party at a bar. I drove back to campus and I arrived back at it around 11 o'clock. And as I walked back to my dorm, I saw Jeremy just standing outside of the college entrance doing nothing. He then turned his head to me. He was staring at me. I felt more like he was staring into my soul. I then walked away quickly because I was so freaked out at the moment. I got back to my dorm safely. A few nights later, things were getting a lot worse. One night I heard a knock at my window. I had a feeling that it was this Jeremy guy, but I wasn't 100% sure. It could be anyone. It is very uncommon to knock on someone's window late at night. Maybe it could be one of my friends. My curiosity got the best of me. I took a deep breath and in one swift motion pulled the shade back only to see, you know who, Jeremy. I threw the shade and fell back. How did he know where my dorm room was? I was so terrified at this moment that I locked myself in the bathroom. I was even more scared because I was living by myself. Luckily, Jeremy didn't live on campus, as he lived nearby because he told me this. I then came out of the bathroom about 15 minutes later. I braced myself to open the shade again. So I did, and this time I felt relieved that he wasn't there anymore. It only got worse 2 nights later. After coming back from a late night choir rehearsal, I of course saw Jeremy standing right outside of my dorm area. This time, as I unlocked the gate, I ran for it and he was chasing me. Sadly, the gate didn't close in time and he managed to get through it. I ran all the way to my dorm hall. I was hoping that an RA would be present, but they weren't in the booth. There was a sign and it said I'll be back in like 15 minutes. I had to take a call. Of course they left, I said to myself. I found a perfect hiding spot. There was a lounge and it had a bathroom there. The bathroom was open and it had a door stopper keeping it open. So I hid behind that bathroom door. Yet again, the door to my dorm hall didn't close in time and Jeremy had entered the building. He looked all over for me. He must have saw the bathroom, but he never walked in or saw my eyes through the side. He then yelled out, "Down," and then he left the building. I waited another minute to see if he was really gone, and he was. I then entered the dorm room, and the shades to the window were open, and I was happy to see that he wasn't there. The next day I told my friends about what Jeremy was doing to me, telling them he knocked on my dorm room window and chased me through the dorm rooms. They were all disgusted with what Jeremy was doing and decided to go with me wherever I went. Nothing happened for the next few days. A few nights later, I was chilling with my friends in my dorm room as they were protecting me. We were all eating food, listening to music, talking, and playing video games. This was interrupted with a couple of bangs at the window. I then whispered to my friends to turn off the music. I then heard from outside the window, "Open up. I need to talk to you." It was Jeremy's voice. We all stayed silent. He then spoke again. "Open the window right now, or else you'll have to face the consequences." Thankfully, the window was locked. Me and my friends all then went into the bathroom and hid silently and called the campus police, which I should have done the first time. As we were all in the bathroom, we heard Jeremy trying to open the window and break it down. Luckily, the campus police arrived in just 5 minutes, not even that. We then heard a knock at the door with a person yelling out, "Resident Life. It's all good now, you can open the door." This was not Jeremy's voice, and we all sighed out of relief. I opened the door and I told the head of the Resident Life all of what happened. They said they will contact the school administration and try to have him dismissed from the college campus. He also told me that he told him to leave or they'll call the real cops. I thanked him because he was really nice. I then told my friends that it was okay now and they can leave. I hugged everyone and I thanked them all. The next day, I got some very exciting news that Jeremy had been removed from the college campus and totally dismissed from the school. I was able to complete my college life without any more unsafe moments that could have me in danger. I still hated the college because it was just a bad school besides my creepy stalker encounters. I have not seen or heard of Jeremy since, and I want to keep it that way for the rest of my life. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45 but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. I got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and I asked her to keep it down. She opened the door and I got a quick peek. Her walls all had crosses painted on them in different colors, and words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow stained, 50-year-old carpets, and it was dog crap and cockroaches everywhere. But no dog though. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night, I had my girlfriend staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy. But then the shadow starts talking. It's my neighbor and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night and who knows how long she stood there. You should lock your doors at night, she says, and then she walks out. The next morning, I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbor, talking to herself in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand, with her rotting dead dog inside. It's hot as hell outside and I can smell death from the bag. At this point, I'm scared as hell. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and I knock on another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. The guy's as scared as me. Apparently she broke into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack only to find her behind the couch, staring at him holding a power drill. Now I know what she was holding in her hand beside my bed. At this stage, I'm basically pooping myself. I call the cops and they know all about her. Apparently she is a violent schizo, and she hasn't taken her meds, but they can't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns it. Only thing they can do is get her when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road at 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars and a special van over there in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her and throw her in the van, and they drive off to some institution in less than a minute, and it's like she was never there. I never saw her again, and I still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would always find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrol park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side, was the silhouette of a man, dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to a waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Decided he was probably drunk. I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass by me. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off of him and across the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then I stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was just standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me but still looking skyward. His smile was still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he moved fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time staring at him, and then he started moving toward me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there completely frozen as the smiling man crept toward me, and then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. What I meant to ask was, "What the hell do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper. What the hell? Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice, and that only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there smiling. And then after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started dance walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back on him again, I just watched him go until he was far enough away to almost be out of my sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way. This time he was running. Shit, I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto the better lit road in sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for about 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see.